Hello everyone, and welcome to V's True Crime Chronicles. Today we bring you a case that sent shockwaves across America. Shocking crime case. The dark secret of a former U.S. Marine. This chilling crime not only dominated headlines, but also kept the FBI working tirelessly to uncover the truth. Will justice prevail in the end? Let's dive right in. The sun was setting over the shores of Panama, painting the sky a deep crimson, an ominous harbinger of what was to come. The breeze carried the salty scent of the ocean, yet in the sweltering heat of dusk, the air felt strangely heavy, as if nature itself was holding its breath before a terrifying secret was unveiled. Amidst this raw and tranquil beauty, a tale of bloodshed and betrayal lay waiting to be told. This was no mere tragedy of love. It was a chilling performance of crime, where even the brightest light of justice could never fully erase the darkness within the human soul. A secret buried beneath golden sands, a death without answers, and a monster in human skin roaming free in this tropical paradise. Brian Bermager was the epitome of a former U.S. Marine. The kind of man who once stood proudly in his crisp uniform at the White House, right beside President George W. Bush. With his commanding presence, cold smile, and unwavering confidence, Brian was admired by many, a man who seemed to have everything necessary for a bright and promising future. Yet after 7 years of military service, in 2011, Brian made a sudden and unexpected decision. He walked away from the life that had once defined him, leaving behind the honor and prestige of his past. Seeking an escape, he set off for the tropical paradise of Panama, carrying with him not just memories of his decorated career, but also secrets he had never shared with anyone. In Panama, Brian quickly found a kindred spirit in Yvonne Baldelli, a young woman with a heart full of hope and dreams of a fresh start. From the moment they met, Yvonne was captivated by Brian, seeing him as a symbol of strength and security. She confided in her sister Michelle, painting a picture of a fairy tale romance, mornings waking up to the sound of gentle waves, sun-kissed beaches stretching as far as the eye could see, and intoxicating nights under the moonlit sky. Their love story seemed like a dream, a promise of paradise, where even the deepest wounds could heal, and happiness could be found in life's simplest pleasures. But just as the light of hope shone its brightest, darkness began to creep in, silently, insidiously, until it was too late to escape. At first, everything seemed like a dream. Yvonne was full of life, carefully tending to every little detail in their beachfront rental on Isla Caronero, a picturesque island in Bocas del Toro. The warm, reassuring emails she sent from abroad put her family at ease, making it seem as if everything was unfolding just as planned. But over time, those messages grew less frequent. Then came an unusual one. "I'm working with a new friend. I'll be home soon." Instead of comfort, these words felt like the ominous ticking of a countdown clock, one that led to fear rather than reunion. Michelle, who had always kept a close eye on Yvonne's life, felt an unease she couldn't shake. The absence of daily emails, the fading promises of a bright future, what once felt like excitement had turned into an unsettling void. Questions gnawed at her mind, relentless and terrifying. Where is Yvonne? Is she in danger? A heaviness settled over the family, a growing dread, like the quiet before a storm. No one could have predicted that behind these subtle warning signs, a sinister plan was already in motion. Brian, the so-called hero, was harboring a horrifying secret. Somehow he had used his own computer to fake Yvonne's emails, crafting an illusion of happiness in Panama. But digital footprints don't lie. Mismatched IP addresses, discrepancies in the messages. Each clue pointed to a chilling reality that sent shivers down Michelle's spine. Yvonne wasn't the one writing those emails. When news broke that Brian had suddenly returned to the U.S., Yvonne's family spiraled further into panic. His contact was minimal, short, cold phone calls, as if he felt nothing for the woman who had once trusted him with her heart. Yvonne's silence, coupled with Brian's indifferent and evasive words, turned the entire situation into an unsolvable puzzle. Michelle, meticulous and relentless by nature, refused to sit back and accept the unknown. Determined to uncover the truth, she enlisted the help of a tech-savvy relative to trace the IP addresses of the emails that Yvonne had supposedly sent from Panama. What they discovered was nothing short of chilling. The IP addresses didn't originate from Panama at all. Instead, they were traced back to California, the very place where Brian was now living. The realization hit Michelle like a gut punch. The affectionate emails, the reassurances of safety, everything the family had believed was a cruel fabrication orchestrated by Brian himself. As the mystery deepened, law enforcement, particularly the FBI, stepped in. Investigators quickly honed in on Brian's computer, phone, and electronic devices, meticulously piecing together fragments of a crime riddled with contradictions. Signs of domestic violence emerged. Heartbreaking testimonies from those who had known them painted a disturbing picture. But the most damning evidence came from Yvonne's own laptop. Every clue, every digital trace, every deception pointed to one undeniable truth. Brian Bermager had buried a monstrous secret beneath a facade of love and trust. Interviews with those who knew Brian gradually painted a picture of a man living a double life. At beachfront bars, bartenders recalled seeing Yvonne with bruised, swollen skin and sorrowful eyes, clear signs of someone enduring the violent outbursts of an unpredictable man. One bar owner, his voice trembling, recounted, "I remember Yvonne coming in once, her face bruised, her eyes glistening with sadness. And Brian, he just stood there, cold, detached, like he was used to it." But the chilling accounts from locals were just the beginning. Investigators soon uncovered hard evidence that shattered any illusion of innocence. A white laptop, Yvonne's constant companion, was found in Brian's apartment. What they retrieved from it was damning. Fabricated emails, suspicious online searches on how to erase traces of evidence, and most disturbingly, queries like how to clean blood from a mattress. Each digital breadcrumb added to the overwhelming case against Brian, exposing the depth of the deception and horror that had unfolded. Then, on a cold and desolate night in San Diego, under the flickering glow of streetlights, Brian found himself in a tense, drawn-out interrogation with the FBI. Under the sterile glare of fluorescent lights, he sat there, expressionless, his eyes hollow, as if each question dragged him deeper into the darkness of his past. Yet, despite the mounting evidence against him, Brian remained defiant. He denied everything. His responses were robotic, calculated, cold as stone. As the pieces of the puzzle began to connect, a horrifying truth slowly emerged. Unable to bear the agony of loss and betrayal, Michelle made a decision. She would travel to Isla Caronero, the island where Yvonne had once lived with Brian, to search for answers herself. Accompanied by investigators, she stepped into the dense jungle and humid swamplands, embarking on a desperate search. Each footstep pressed into the damp sand. The wind howled through the trees, and the suffocating humidity clung to them like an unseen force, creating an eerie atmosphere, as if the island itself was guarding its darkest secret. Just a few meters from the shoreline, in a secluded area where untouched wilderness met faint traces of human disturbance, they made a discovery: a crossbody bag. Inside, they found an American passport, but it didn't belong to Yvonne. The unsettling find sharpened the investigators' instincts, confirming their worst fears. Dried bloodstains, torn scraps of paper, and remnants of personal belongings hinted at a devastating conclusion. Yvonne hadn't left the island willingly. She had been trapped in a nightmare she would never escape. Then came the moment of ultimate horror. Yvonne's remains were found in a remote, desolate part of the island. In a haunting scene straight out of a crime novel, scattered white bones lay strewn across the earth, like fragments of a gruesome, unspeakable tragedy. A DNA test swiftly confirmed the unthinkable. The remains belonged to Yvonne, a young woman once filled with dreams and hope, now reduced to nothing more than shattered pieces of a life cruelly stolen. When the evidence left no room for doubt, Brian's silence began to crack under the weight of justice. Though he desperately tried to evade responsibility, the truth had finally cornered him, forcing him to face the consequences of his crimes. In a tense and emotionally charged trial, expert testimonies, haunting crime scene photos, and damning digital evidence from Yvonne's laptop all combined to form an undeniable conclusion. Brian Bermager was responsible for Yvonne's tragic death. Under the glare of the media and the watchful eyes of thousands, Brian stood before the court, facing charges of obstruction of justice and second-degree murder. The courtroom was suffocating, heavy with grief, rage, and the inescapable reality of a life stolen too soon. The rhythmic echo of the officer's footsteps, the harsh fluorescent lights, and the quiet sighs of those in attendance painted a grim scene where every heart ached with the same sorrow, the unbearable loss of a young woman who had simply wanted a new beginning. Meanwhile, Brian's wife, Kristen, clung to a blind and desperate belief in her husband's innocence. But her faith in him was no match for the raw anguish and fury of Yvonne's family, especially Michelle. A sister who had fought relentlessly for justice, Michelle took the stand and delivered a gut-wrenching testimony, each word cutting through the courtroom like a knife. She spoke of Yvonne's silent suffering, the bruises hidden behind forced smiles, the nameless fears that had haunted her, fears that Brian's betrayal had ultimately confirmed. Finally, after a grueling legal battle, Brian Bermager had no choice but to plead guilty. In 2016, he was sentenced to 26 years in federal prison, a punishment that, while severe, could never truly atone for the horrific pain he had inflicted. Though justice had been served, the echoes of this tragedy would forever haunt Yvonne's loved ones and the community that mourned her. Long after the trial, as the cold wind rattled against bedroom windows in the dead of night, the silent cries of those lost souls lingered, whispers of grief that would never fade. Michelle, who had not only lost her sister, but also her faith and happiness, now lived in the shadow of memories too painful to escape. Every day was a battle, not just against the ghosts of the past, but against a cruel new enemy, terminal cancer. The diagnosis was a devastating blow, a merciless twist that suffocated what little hope she had left. Meanwhile, Kristen, the wife who had stood by Brian, seemed to exist in two worlds. To some, she was the gentle, smiling woman who had remained fiercely loyal to her husband. But behind closed doors, in the solitude of her thoughts, there were silent tears, unspoken sorrow, and a growing weight of doubt. While she continued to defend Brian, to the outside world, Kristen was nothing more than a tragic figure, a woman trapped in the illusion of love, blinded by her devotion to a man who had betrayed everything. In the months following the trial, Yvonne's image remained frozen in time. A radiant smile, kind eyes, and dreams of a life filled with joy. Those who had known her still held onto the remnants of her presence, the faded photographs, the old messages that once carried warmth but now felt like bitter remnants of what was stolen. Justice, though finally delivered, could never erase the unbearable truth. The pain of losing Yvonne would never fade. The fight for justice for Yvonne was a brutal journey, one paved with blood, tears, and relentless determination. Investigators, refusing to let her story fade into obscurity, combed through every last piece of evidence. But their mission didn't stop at convicting Brian. It ignited a larger battle against the darkness of crime itself. From exhaustive searches for Yvonne's remains to harrowing investigations on remote islands and international cooperation efforts, their work stood as proof that no matter how deep the shadows may stretch, the light of justice will always find a way through. The day Yvonne's remains were found was a day of devastation for her family. But in that same moment, as painful as it was, the confirmation of truth became the key that unlocked a new path. A journey toward healing, however fractured. Though what remained were only shattered pieces of a past that could never be restored. For those who loved Yvonne, they were more than remnants. They were proof. Proof that justice, no matter how delayed, would not be denied. Now, when her family speaks of Yvonne, it is not just with sorrow, but with a vow to preserve her memory, to ensure that no one can ever erase the truth, and to stand as a testament that faith in justice will never be stolen. As Brian Bremager spent his days confined within the cold, unyielding walls of prison, the chilling echoes of his crime continued to resonate beyond. His silence behind bars only deepened the haunting legacy of an unforgivable act. Outside, the community remained vigilant, following every update, every breakthrough in the investigation, and every legal proceeding. Each testimony, each fragment of evidence, became another piece of a dark puzzle, a stark reminder that no matter how carefully the truth is concealed beneath a facade of happiness, it will always find its way to the surface. For Yvonne's family, justice had been served, but their grief remained. They would forever carry the memory of a beautiful, kind-hearted woman who was taken far too soon. Michelle, bound by an unbreakable love for her sister, continued her battle, not just against the past, but against the pain, the ghosts of betrayal, and the scars left behind by violence. She knew that while Brian had been sentenced, the wounds inflicted by his deceit and cruelty would never fully heal. In one final moment of quiet reflection, as the sky burned crimson with the fading sun, Michelle stood surrounded by loved ones. With a soft but resolute voice, she whispered, "Yvonne, I promise to keep your memory alive. No matter how dark the night may become, I won't let it overshadow the light of love and justice." It was more than a farewell, it was a vow, a testament to the enduring power of truth, no matter how much pain it had to endure. The story of Brian Bremager and Yvonne Baldelli is a heartbreaking testament to the crimes that lurk beneath the illusion of trust and false happiness. It is a tale of memories that will never fade, of silent tears shed in a tropical paradise, and of a betrayal so profound that it shattered the hearts of those who loved her. But above all, it serves as a chilling reminder that no matter how deep the darkness may seem, truth and justice will always find their way to the light. In this world, anyone can fall victim to deception, to those who wear two faces. But as long as we continue to fight, as long as we refuse to abandon our belief in the truth, no obstacle, no matter how insurmountable, can keep the light of justice and genuine love from piercing through the shadows. Though this story ends here, the echoes of truth, justice, and unbearable loss will forever linger in the minds of those who lived, who loved, and who mourned. In the cold isolation of a prison cell, and in the quiet serenity of a new morning, Yvonne's memory endures like an eternal flame, a reminder that even in a world tainted by deceit, truth can never be buried forever. Thank you for watching V's True Crime Chronicles. Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping true crime stories.